Hello, everyone. Hi. Welcome. Let's go ahead and get started. Hope you all had a fantastic winter break. Welcome back to class. First day of class. Probably your first class, unless you were, what's the word I'm looking for? Brave enough to sign up for a class earlier than this one. I see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd. A lot of you probably already know who I am, but if we're meeting for the first time, hello. My name is Professor Shook, Doug Shook. And this is 237 Programming Tools and Techniques. I am so excited to be here. You have no idea. I have been thinking about this class nonstop, basically, ever since I started teaching. So for the last 10 years of my life, I've been thinking about a class exactly like this one. I'm so thrilled that I finally have a chance to get to offer this course and that you all are, sort of the first participants of this class. Thank you very much for, I know there's always kind of a little bit of a taking a chance on a new class. I appreciate you taking a chance on me, taking a chance on this course. I hope that you will not regret it. You won't regret it. It'll be fine. So we have some typical syllabus day stuff that we're going to go over today. I've got some important topics of discussion that I want to talk to you about today. I think I do want to start out just to let you know that I am recording right now, so just like to make people aware of that. I do try to record my stuff, so if you don't want to be on the recording, then just be aware of that. If you want to become YouTube famous, go to a different class because nobody watches my videos. And, well, except for you guys. You guys are watching, right? So what is this class all about? Well, this class, I wanted to create this class for a couple reasons. Reason number one, I see people coming through some upper level classes that could really benefit from some skills that they just were somehow making their way to senior or even graduate level classes and not getting. And I don't think that's the fault of the students. I think that's actually our fault as a department, as an institution. And so I wanted to make a class that kind of picked up those skills. Skills like how to properly debug your programs, how to properly run unit tests, how to properly write unit tests, how to use the command line, stuff like that people kind of pick up in bits and pieces here and there, but nobody ever sits them down and says, hey, here's how you use the command line, right? Well, now in this class, I'm going to sit you down and say, here's how you use the command line, among other things. So that's one big reason that I want to offer this course. Another reason that I'm really excited about offering this course is because I think more than a lot of the other courses that are offered in the department, I want to offer you a lot of flexibility to kind of discover your own style, your own feel for programming. This course is a 200 level course for a reason. I intend this course to be targeted towards freshmen, sophomores, people coming right out of 131. Now I'm looking out here at the crowd and I see a lot of wonderful students who are not fresh out of 131, and that's fine, right? You're all welcome to be here. I just want you all to be aware that this course is geared towards freshmen, sophomore level students who have had maybe one or two comp sci classes. If that fits you, awesome. You're exactly who I was hoping would take this class. If you're an upper level student, also awesome. I'm glad you're here. I hope you pick up some tools and techniques. Just be aware that some of this stuff you may have already picked up along the way. And that's fine. That's great. That's awesome. Just want you all to be aware of that. So the way that this course is structured, I'm going to go through, get the syllabus stuff out of the way for starters. We kind of have 2 or maybe 3 different sections of the class. The first section, what we're going to start out with are just kind of an overview of some basic tools that are meant to help you become more effective programmers. So command line is one that I already mentioned, unit testing, debugging. We're going to talk about Git a lot in this class. So stuff like that. What are some tools that we, if there were some tools that I would want every programmer to know to help make their lives easier, what would they be? That's what we're going to spend the first chunk of time talking about. The second unit is more along the lines of coding style, I guess, for lack of a better term. So How many of you have written some garbage-looking code? If you didn't raise your hand, you're a liar. Straight up, I've written garbage code. I'm going to continue to write garbage code. You can't stop me from doing it. But at some point in time, there's going to be a need for you to maybe not write nice code, but at least go back to your garbage code and make it look better, right? Make it look nicer. Make it so that you could show it off to somebody. Print out a copy and hang it on your refrigerator at home, right? That's the kind of stuff that we're interested in talking about in this class. How do I write code that, okay, yeah, I stayed up till 3 in the morning and I got to work, but how do I also get it to where, you know, I could show this to somebody else and they wouldn't like start ripping their hair out, right? That's what the second section of this class is going to be about. And then the third and final section of this class is going to be a project. So this is a project-based class. There are no exams. It's all project homework-based, right? So the last section of the class is going to be a project, but unlike other project-based classes, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do several repetitions, well, not several, 3 repetitions on your project, right? You get 1 pass, you get some feedback on how well you did, you get another pass at it based on that feedback, and maybe you'll add a little bit of extra the second time around, right? You'll add a little bit more stuff the second time around, but you're also going to spend a lot of time fixing the stuff that you screwed up on the first pass through, right? You're going to get some more feedback. You're going to get a 3rd pass. I feel like that's something that's happens a lot in the real world that you don't get a lot of chance to experience in a academic environment. A lot of times when you're taking courses, whether it's comp sci or even other courses, I guess English courses are better about this than comp sci courses are. But you know, a lot of times in comp sci classes, you code an assignment, you submit it, you never think about it again, right? Or maybe it comes back to haunt you in your nightmares. But like other than that, you don't really think about it again. Well, we're gonna do something a little different. We're gonna do an assignment, you're gonna get some feedback on it, and then you're gonna do it again. And then you're gonna get some more feedback on it, and then you're gonna do it again. Because that's what coding is like. Coding does not just send their program out in the world and never think about it again. That's not how this stuff works. So I want to give you a chance to not just practice the tools and techniques that we talk about in the first half of the course, but also give you a chance to actually get a taste of that experience of what is developing a program actually like. We're going to try and make it as realistic as possible. We are still kind of restricted by, you know, only 15 weeks. We're in a school environment, but that's kind of the plan. So Canvas is, I don't have a website. Canvas is the course website for this class. So everything that you need to know is on Canvas. You can see I've already got 6 assignments set up. This is going to be for the first part of the class. So from now until spring break, when we're talking about those tools, we're talking about coding style, you're going to have roughly 1 assignment per week. They're not going to be super long assignments, but you're going to have roughly 1 assignment per week. After spring break, that's when you get started on the project. So you can see down here, we've got a project pitch. You're going to have to tell me what your project is. You can start thinking about that now. We'll have a chat about that a little bit more as it gets closer. And then 3 iterations on that project. 3 rounds. There you go. You'll get feedback after iteration 1. Well, you'll get feedback after each iteration and use that to help you with the next one. That's it. These are the gradable items. You got 6 assignments and a project. The grading breakdown is on the policies page. Hello? Oh, is that busted or is the internet busted? Hello? Okay, there it goes. I don't know. So the assignments are 25% of your grade, and the project is going to be 75% of your grade. That project is huge. You're getting 3 cracks at it, right? So it should be really awesome. By the time you submit that final iteration, it should be awesome. It should be well polished. It should be really cool. The rest of this stuff I feel like is pretty self-explanatory. Oh yeah, for the assignments, everybody's got 7 late coupons where each coupon counts as a day. So if you, and this is only, I should maybe make this a little bit more clear. This does not apply to the project. The project due dates are very firm. But for the first half of the class, if you need to submit something late, you have a lot of exams that week, you get sick, whatever the case may be, you can use however many late coupons you want to submit it up to a few days late without any penalty. No penalty, no nothing. We'll talk about that a little bit more once we get to the first homework assignment. I have an academic integrity policy down here, and for those of you who know me, you know that I take academic integrity very seriously. However, in this class, I don't foresee academic integrity being that much of a problem because every assignment, with a few exceptions, but a lot of the assignments, a lot of the work that I'm going to ask you to do is going to be very personal to yourself. I'm going to be asking you to do things that are very personal. So it would be very difficult and even a little bit silly to even attempt to copy from somebody else or achieve outside help. Actually, in general, looking things up on the internet is very much encouraged. So Stack Overflow is going to be your friend. I'm not going to get mad if you find something cool on Stack Overflow and you want to use it on your project. That's exactly what programming is like in this class. That's what I want to see you do in this class. So, you know, we can have a deeper conversation about academic integrity if you want to, but I don't think anybody wants to. So we're gonna skip that for now. There is a textbook, and I say textbook, but it's not actually a textbook in the traditional sense. There is a book that we are going to read, a big portion of, not all of it, but a lot of. It's called Clean Code, and this is an Amazon link. It's also available in the bookstore. You do need a copy of this. I don't care how you get it. I don't care if you buy a physical copy and have it in your hands. I don't care if you have a, some digital copy on your computer or whatever you like to read books on. But you do need a copy of this. The good news is you don't need it right now. So we're not going to start using this book until February. So you got a few weeks. You don't need a copy right this second. But it's probably a good idea to go ahead and pick one up just so you don't forget about it, because we are going to use it. You are going to need a copy of that textbook. What other boring administrative stuff do we have before we can get to the more fun stuff? I've got some TAs helping me out with this class. We're going to have office hours. The office hours page is blank though, because we haven't figured out when those are going to be yet. So we'll start office hours next week. I'll update this page. We have a Piazza for this course. I'm sure if you've taken comp sci classes, you're familiar with Piazza. So at some point over the next week or so, go ahead and get signed up for that so that you can ask questions for the class. This is the preferred way of contacting me. If you have something that's personal or private, then please contact me via email. If you have something that's just generally related to the course, then stick it up on Piazza, and we'll deal with it there. The course calendar is actually already spelled out. So you can look ahead. The internet in here is apparently terrible. Oh, there's my other class. Hang on, we don't need both of them on there. Sorry. Let me turn that one off for now. So I've spelled out the calendar for the whole semester already. So you can take a look from now until April, actually May is finals week, although we don't have an exam in this class. You can take a look at the calendar to see what we're going to be talking about on any given day. See all the due dates for the assignments, so you can see that your first homework assignment is due on the 29th at the end of the month, right? It hasn't been posted yet. It'll be posted sometime in the next few days probably. So all the due dates, everything's up there. You can plan your schedule accordingly. If you ever have any scheduling questions, this is your first place to go. It's possible that the schedule will change, but if it does, I'm going to update this calendar to reflect those changes. I'll also announce them in class as well. So please use Canvas. Everything's on Canvas. If you have any questions about the class, stop number 1 should probably be Canvas. All right. Does anybody have any logistical questions before we start talking about stuff that's more interesting than syllabus stuff? Does anybody have questions about syllabus stuff? can we move on to, yes?
So the final project, excuse me, is the final project like you get to choose what you want to
Yes, you get to choose what your final project's going to be about. Yeah, that's right. Now remember that you're taking 3 cracks at it. So even though we're starting the project after spring break, right? It sounds like a lot of time. It is a lot of time. From spring break till the end of the semester, it's maybe a little less than 2 months, right? Sounds like a lot of time because it is, but remember that you've got 3 rounds in that 2 months. So I don't want you to plan necessarily a 2-month project. Each iteration is going to be about 2 weeks. So what I really want you to plan is maybe like a 2.5 to 3 week long project with the idea that you can, add little bits here and there as you go along. We'll talk about the project a lot more. You'll have a group. Yeah.
So is there a final exam?
There's no exams in this class, no.
For some reason it said there was a final exam.
So we might use the final exam time for final presentations for the project, but there will not be an exam on that date. Yeah. In fact, I think I have it marked on the calendar as presentations for the project. We'll talk about that more. No exams in this class. Nope, not happening. Any other logistical questions before we start talking about some material stuff, some more interesting stuff? Any questions? Well, all right, fantastic. So what I want to do today is just kind of almost set the philosophical background for what this class is trying to do, what we're trying to help you with. Because I got to be honest with you, I've never taught a class that's quite like this one. So, and I suspect that many of you have probably not taken a class that's quite like this one. It's going to be a little bit different. Let me give you an example. A lot of what you're going to see, I already kind of mentioned this before, but a lot of what you're going to see on the assignments, I'm actually going to, and this is the part where I might lose some of you, but stay with me. I'm going to ask you to actually write short answers in English, turn in non-coding stuff. Write a few paragraphs about something that you have learned or something that you feel like, analyze your own strengths, your own weaknesses about a particular topic. We have a term for this in education. It's called reflection, right? Reflection. Reflection is also a computer science term. You might learn about, the comp sci reflection in a different class, or maybe this one, probably not. But in this class, I'm going to ask you to do a lot of reflection. I'm going to ask you to tell me what you've learned, how you think the course concepts that we have learned apply to what you have seen in your own experience. It's very important, I think, to take the time to do that, to take the time to figure out what kind of a programmer you are, right? Think about, make your own opinions, form your own ideas, your own philosophy about programming. I feel pretty comfortable, pretty confident in what my philosophy about programming is. And I'm going to try to do my best not to be heavy-handed about what that is, because I want to give you all a chance to figure that out for yourselves. And I think the process of doing that involves a lot of introspection, a lot of looking inside yourself and thinking about these concepts on a personal level. And how they apply to you directly. So a lot of the assignments are going to ask you to do some reflection. The project is going to ask you to do some reflection. The project is going to ask you to think back. Okay, you just finished iteration 1. Think back over the last 3 weeks. What went well? What didn't go well? Right? And why? What could have been done differently for the next iteration to help resolve those problems? Right? Those are the things that I'm going to ask you to think about. I'm also going to ask you to straight up tell me, information about how you're feeling about the course in general. This is a brand new class. I'm going to ask you surveys about how the course is doing, about how I'm doing, probably almost every week or at least every other week. It's my goal. So I'm going to be asking you to tell me your opinions, to give me information, not just to help me know how I'm doing, but also to help yourselves figure out what kind of programmers there are. That's why I think that it's important to take this class kind of early on, because it can really help shift the direction that you go in as a programmer, help you discover who you are as a programmer. So there may be points in which I tell you my opinion on a particular thing and you flat out disagree with me. You think, oh, Professor Shook, you're full of garbage. Why did you say that? That's okay. That's the kind of stuff that I want to happen in this class, right? I want you to feel like you can say stuff like that. I want you to feel comfortable enough to disagree with me on things. There's a difference, though, between, you know, disagreeing on technical things and you know, more subjective things, right? If you tell me that you can't, you know, do recursion in Java, I'm going to look at you and be like, why are you in this class again? But if you tell me that, you know, Emacs is a better text editor than Vim, I'm going to very much disagree with that statement, but I'm not going to disagree with your right to have that statement. And that will probably make a lot more sense when we talk about text editors in a couple of weeks, right? So I want you all to feel comfortable enough to have those opinions, to start forming those opinions, to get exposed to these different kinds of technologies so that you can actually form what those opinions are. And then tell me about that. Tell me what that process was like. Take the time to sit down, write a couple paragraphs, tell me about what that experience was like. So there will be some essay style, short answer style stuff that I ask you to do on these assignments alongside the technical stuff. What else? Peer review is going to be a part of this class. I'm going to ask you to look at other people's stuff and provide feedback on it. Not for every assignment, but for especially I think when we get to the project, that's going to become a major part of the project. Your project code is going to be evaluated by other students in the class, as well as myself. I will also evaluate the projects, of course, but also going to be evaluated by other people in the class. The idea there is that I am one person. I, of course, have a lot of ideas, a lot of opinions, but there are other people in this class who also have a lot of ideas and a lot of opinions who are different than mine. And so getting those different perspectives on your code, on your project, is going to be valuable for you, right? Hopefully my feedback is valuable to you, but it's not going to be the same as your feedback or your feedback, right? So if we can get feedback from multiple sources, that's going to be more valuable to you. It's going to help you build a better program. You're going to catch something that I may not, right? That's the hope there. So we're going to get used to looking at other people's code, reading other people's code, doing peer review kinds of exercises in this class. What else did I have on my agenda to talk to you about today? Before I have a couple of discussion exercises. I just want to make sure I'm covering all the bases before I get there. Does anybody have any questions for me so far? Yes. What's up?
I was just one I forgot to ask earlier. On the syllabus, it said that you will reserve the right to curve the class. Can I assume that's only upwards, or would you ever curve downwards? Or is that
I've never curved anything in my life, and I don't intend to start now. That's basically a safety net for me to come in and curve things typically up, but that's never happened. So I don't foresee it happening here. I don't want to curve anything. Let me put it that way. I don't want to curve anything. That clause is there as a safety net, and I've never had to use it, and I hope I don't have to use it now. So, and if I do, it will only be for good, not for evil. I promise. I promise. Yeah.
Are the assignments individual?
The first small set of assignments, the weekly assignments, are going to be individual assignments. They involve a lot of reflection, so I think it's that personal nature makes it so that they kind of have to be individual. They're not going to be super long, right? There will be some more technical pieces of the assignments as well. So we're going to talk about command line stuff. I might ask you to actually write a short command line script or something, right? Like that's part of it as well. But yeah, they'll be individual, and then you'll get together and form groups of probably 3 to 4 people for the projects after spring break. And I would encourage you to start thinking about your projects now. You do have to give a pitch. That's on the calendar right after spring break. You do have to give a pitch for what your project's going to be. You can come talk to me about potential project ideas. I've got some stuff kind of rolling around in my brain as to what might work for a project. I do want to make it clear too that the book that we're looking at, as well as all the examples that I'm going to do in class, are in Java. Reason being that I want people to take this class after they take 131, and 131 is in Java. So we're going to be using Java in this class. I know we were just on the topic of forming opinions. There are some people around here who I know have very strong opinions about Java, for better or for worse. So if you are one of those people, that's something that I can't budge on. We're gonna use Java in class. For the project, if you want to do something that's not Java, I would be open. I would be open to that. But it does make peer review difficult. So I'm gonna kind of have to wait and see how many people want to color outside the lines on that one. And if I can accommodate it, I certainly will do my best. But a lot of this class is going to be in Java. So, yeah. Any other questions? I have a couple questions for you that I want to talk about next. But any questions you have for me before we switch gears a little bit? Yeah. Good question. So you're kind of, I was going to say this at the end of the class, but I'll do it now since you asked. We're going to be using Linux-based command line in this class. So I see a few Macs out there. You guys are good. If you have a Mac, or if you're using Linux, which I'm not sure if anybody is or not, you're good to go. If you're on a Windows machine, you have a homework assignment. So this is not, I hate to pick on Windows users. I'm a Windows user, right? I hate to pick on Windows users. This is not personal. If you have a Windows machine, you have a homework assignment. The good news is that it's very short. You need to go out, you need to download Linux subsystem for Windows and get that set up before the next class. It should take you 10 minutes. I put a link actually on Canvas for Wednesday. If you have a Windows machine, install Linux subsystem for Windows before class. That way we'll all be on the same page. If you have a Mac or a Linux box already, then you got nothing to do between now and Wednesday except get excited about this class. Any other questions for me? Yeah?
How many people are in the group?
3 to 4 probably. Yeah, 3 to 4. We'll talk about that a lot more towards spring break. We got a lot to do between now and spring break. But I am excited about those projects as well. Any other questions? Yeah?
Can you use like a virtual machine?
Can you use a virtual machine? You can. I think that's overkill. I think that's like using a sledgehammer to hang a picture on the wall, right? But you can. I don't have a problem with that. If you've already got one set up, then it's probably easy, right? I would not recommend setting one up just for the purpose of this class. That is overkill. Any other questions? All right, I've got a question for you then. And I'm gonna give you a few minutes to talk to your neighbors about it, right? And then we'll have a kind of a group discussion. The question that I have for you is simple, but I'm betting that a lot of you have maybe not spent a ton of time thinking about it before today. Maybe you have. I don't need to make assumptions. The question is this: what makes a good program? Or let's think about it another way. If you want to think about this from a different angle, right? Somebody walks up to you on the street and says, "Hey man, take a look at my program." That happens all the time, right? Somebody walks up to you, says, "Hey, take a look at this code that I wrote. What do you think?" What criteria are you going to use to answer that question in a meaningful way, right? What criteria are you going to go through in your brain to say, "Ah, this program's actually pretty cool," or, "Oh man, this guy wrote a steaming pile of garbage," right? Take a few moments, talk to your neighbors, see if you can jot down a few ideas as to what you think makes a program good, and then we'll have a discussion as a group in 5 or 10. All right? All right, let's bring it back. I heard some great discussion. I'm glad you all jumped right in, started talking to your neighbors about this question. Who's got some feedback for me? The question was, what makes a good program? What makes a program good? Anybody got you don't have to give me a complete answer. Just anybody got a piece of the puzzle for me? Yeah, what's up?
Good variable.
Variable names. All right. What else we got? Anybody else got something for me? Yeah. Readability. All right. So variable names kind of falls under readability, doesn't it? Like it's sort of the same. So readability being the, how well can you read and understand the code, right? Yeah.
A compromise between simplicity and efficiency.
Simplicity and efficiency. So simplicity, they're somewhat related. I think you mentioned, right? You don't want to have extra stuff tacked on there that's not doing anything, right? That, keep it simple. So efficiency is a big part of computer science. Those of you who've taken 247, 347, spent a lot of time thinking about efficiency. And yes, that's very important. But we're gonna let 247, 347 really tackle the major efficiency issues. I'm not worried about big O notation so much in this class. Yeah.
Extensibility.
Extensibility. Can you explain what you mean by that?
The ability of a user or a client to modify the program to add new functionality.
All right. So if I want to come back later and add more stuff to it, how easy or hard is it to do that? Right. That's a very important thing. Consider that this happens all the time. All the time. Did Microsoft just dump Windows 10 out on the world and say, all right, good luck, see you next time, Windows 11? No, they added more stuff to it. They patched it, they fixed the bugs, they added more stuff to it. So this kind of stuff happens all the time. How easy is that? How difficult is that to do? That's something that we care about. Awesome. What else? What else we got? Yeah.
Like abstract classes and interfaces, you don't have to do anything.
I missed that last bit. Abstract classes, interfaces.
Interfaces, you don't have to do anything.
Repeated code. All right. So, how do I want to say that? I mean, I could say no repeated code. I mean, some repeated code. It's not like the end of the world, but minimize repetition. We want to minimize how much repetition we're doing, right? This actually speaks, I think, to a larger goal. There's sort of a bigger goal that kind of encapsulates this one. Can anybody think of how you might quantify that? Not just minimizing repetition, but readability kind of feeds into it as well. So does extensibility, maybe a little bit, but not a ton. What's it called when, so a lot of you are going to go out and get jobs as programmers, right? Are you going to, when you get a job, are you expecting to write your own brand new program from scratch? You get hired at Google. Is Google going to say, all right, go make Gmail version 2.0, go, right? That's not going to happen. What's going to happen? They're going to put you on the Gmail team, or they're going to put you on one of their already existing teams, and a lot of what you're doing is either going to be adding new stuff or maintaining the old stuff. So how easy is it to maintain? Maintainability. Maintainability is a big one. How easy is it to maintain the code? How easy is it to keep this code up and running over a period of time? Right? What else? There's more, yeah. Modularity. So what do you mean by modularity? So modularity is kind of linked to, minimizing repetition, right? The ability of a piece of your program to kind of stand on its own independently and be plugged into somewhere else or swapped out if it needs to. Think about it like whenever people talk to me about modularity, I always think about this Lego set that I had as a kid, right? I could unhook some of the Legos and plug another Lego in, and it would all still work just fine. It's very modular. What else? Any other ones? There's a couple big ones that I feel like we're still missing. Some ones that I know programmers really like to do, like how well is your code documented? Documentation takes many forms, right? The form that we're probably most familiar with is comments. It's not the only form. It could mean a literal, like, here's a guide, right, to how to use my program. Here's a tutorial about how to set it up. Here's a README about some things that you should watch out for. Here's some stuff that I know is currently broken. I'm working on it, right? Documentation's a big part of it. Big part of it. Any other ones you guys came up with? So this is certainly not an exhaustive list, but it's a good place to get started. It's a good place for us to start thinking about the kinds of stuff that I want us to be thinking about in this class. We all, I think, can see the utility of having code that's easy to maintain, having code that's simple, having code that's easy to read, right? How do we actually do it, though? How do we actually make code that meets those goals? And these goals are also somewhat subjective, right? Code that looks entirely readable to me could look like a hot mess to you, and vice versa, So, are there things that we can do that are more general, that we would expect to appeal to, most programmers? Or, can we try to identify our own personal biases and keep those out of our code as much as possible for the sake of unity when working with other people, right? These are the kinds of questions that I hope to have a conversation with you about, that I hope to think about over the next 15 weeks. This is a great list, and we're going to talk about, I think, all of these things at some point in one form or another. I think it's interesting that nobody mentioned functionality at all, so that was kind of cool. Like, does it work? Does it do what you want it to do, right? Like, maybe nobody said it because it's extremely obvious, right? If it doesn't do what you want it to do, then what's even the point? But that's another big part of this class, and one that I really would like to take a moment to emphasize. This whole idea of, does it work? How do we know if it works? How many times has this happened to you? You're working on a program, it might be a homework assignment or something that you're just doing for a personal project. You're working on it, and you finally get it. You're like, all right, this is great. This is awesome. Everything's working exactly the way that I want it to. And then you get really excited, and you call over a friend or somebody else, and you're like, hey, check out this thing that I made. And they look at it, and they're like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to use this thing? Has that happened to anybody before? Because it will. I promise you it will. Because what happens? We get this picture in our brain of how things are supposed to work. And we write a program, we code a program using that vision in our brain. And so when we see it on our screens, we're like, oh yeah, that matches exactly what I had in my head. I get it, it's perfect. But you show it to somebody else, and their vision of what a program that does that thing should look like is totally different. Or your vision of what that program looks like conveys a different message to that person than what you intended. Why? Just because they have a different perspective on the world. They have a different way of viewing the world, right? So one thing that maybe we should have added to this list and is a huge topic is usability. Right? How easy is it for somebody to understand what my program can do and actually make it do that stuff? How easy is that? That's something that's hugely, hugely important, and something that, if you want to get it right, takes a lot of time. It needs to be not just us that understands how to use our program, but the world at large also needs to understand how to use our program, which means that at some point we're probably going to have to go out into the world, show people our program, and let them tell us if they understand it or not. What's confusing? What looks good? What looks bad? What's confusing? And that's something we're going to do in this class as well. It's called acceptance testing. Or really, the whole idea of testing in general weighs a lot on the usability of the program. Not just functionality, but also, is it easy enough for people to figure out how to use it? There have been some serious flaws in usability, some that even make headlines, right? I'm looking at you, iPhone users without a headphone jack, right? Sometimes that stuff makes the news. Sometimes that stuff makes headlines, major usability issues, because they affect a large portion of the population. Not me, because I'm on Android, but a large portion. So these are things that are worth thinking about. Android has its own problems. Don't get me started. All right. Any questions or any other additions on this? I have another question for you, actually, but any questions or additions to the discussion on this one before we think about things a little differently? All right. So I'm going to ask you another question. Same thing as before. I'll give you 5 to 10 minutes to talk to your neighbors about it, and then we'll have another conversation about it. This time, instead of asking you, what makes a good program, I'm going to rephrase this slightly. I'm going to ask you, what makes a good programmer? Right? So when you get out of here and you form a startup, you're going to make the next TikTok, I don't know, right? Make $1 billion. You need to hire programmers. What are you looking for in a programmer? What makes someone a good programmer? And I want you to try and pick things that are related to programming, right? Like you could say, oh, I don't want him to be an asshole. And it's like, well, yeah, nobody wants, like that's just a general life thing, right? Although you could argue that some good programmers actually are assholes, like Linus Torp. No. Sorry, he's gonna watch my YouTube video and send me an angry email. But think about things that are related to programming. Take a few minutes, talk to your neighbors, and we'll have a conversation in just a little bit. Okay, you've just founded a startup and you're growing like crazy. You need to hire programmers. What are you looking for in a programmer? Who do you want on your team? If you get to pick, what are you looking for in a programmer? What traits do you want? Yeah.
Someone with good communication skills.
Communication, all right, because programming is something that happens with a group of people, right? It's not typically a solo endeavor. It can be, I suppose, but more often than not, it's going to be a group effort. So communication is critical. What else? What else are you looking for in a programmer? Yes?
Patience.
Patience, okay. I like this one. Why did you suggest patience as something?
I'm very impatient.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I found that it's
Me
better
too.
to accept the tedious work and just get through it.
Okay. Well, I like that answer. I'd also maybe say that we've all worked with computers long enough to know that things are going to go wrong, right? Things are gonna start failing. Things are gonna break down, and if you get frustrated and throw your computer out the window every time that happens, you're gonna go through a lot of computers, right? A little bit of patience goes a long way. What else? Is this a harder question than the first one? It's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah. Innovation. Okay. So correct me if I'm misinterpreting what you mean by this, but the ability to come up with new ideas, right? Be creative. Okay. So you're not looking for a bunch of guys that you can just boss around and tell what to do and say, go work on this, go do that. You want people who will actually come up with their own ideas. I like it. What else? There's one word that I was expecting somebody to say. Nobody has so far. Yeah.
Ability to meet deadlines.
Deadlines. Oh man, deadlines suck. Deadlines. I mean, what does this really look like though? If you have the ability to meet deadlines, what does that really mean? That you're able to stay up till 4 in the morning, or
You're able to allocate your work.
so really it's about organization, right? So maybe we could rephrase that a little bit. Instead of phrasing it as deadlines, to me is just like such a negative concept. I'd rather phrase it as something a little bit more positive and say organization. Organization. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. What else?
Planning or forward thinking.
Planning. So planning, organization. Yeah. Forward thinking. Can you elaborate on that one a little bit? What do you mean by it?
I guess another way to say it would be goal oriented.
Goal oriented. So we're trying to do X. What can we do to achieve X, right? As opposed to meandering around the office all day drinking coffee. Yeah. Okay. Cool. What about let me ask you one. What about knowledge? Oh gosh, I can't even spell knowledge, so this clearly doesn't apply to me. Okay. What about knowledge? This is a tricky one, I think. Right? If you say I want to hire programmers that know a bunch of stuff, or those are the people that I want on my team, programmers that know a bunch of stuff, I certainly see the appeal in that, right? And clearly we don't want the opposite. We don't want somebody who's just a total dummy on our team, right? Like that's not what we're going for. But I think that this only goes so far. And hear me out on this one, right? It's not that I'm looking for somebody who's a straight expert on Java or a straight expert on using this particular framework, right? But I'm actually looking for something maybe a little bit more subtle, a little bit more nuanced than this. Yeah.
Detail oriented.
Detail oriented. So willing to look at the little things. Yeah. If we come back to knowledge for a second, though, it's not necessarily about what you know. Yeah.
Ability to learn.
ability to learn, right? It's not just what you know, but what you're capable of knowing, I think, is one way of thinking about it. Or really, I think knowledge is important in the sense of knowing what you know, right? Knowing what you are currently capable of. Having a good idea of what you can currently do, what you could probably do if you had a little bit of time to figure it out, and what you just absolutely probably could not do, right? That's the kind of knowledge that I think is valuable for a programmer to have. And that's the kind of thinking that I want to emphasize in this class. I want to make it clear right now that, you know, if I ask you a question or I ask you to do something on a homework assignment, or if you have to do something for your project and you don't know how to do it, that's not a bad thing, right? Understanding that you don't know how to do that thing and then figuring out how to do it and learning it. Willingness to learn. Willingness to learn is a huge, huge trait, I feel like, for anybody who wants to go far in this field, because it's changing so rapidly. Things change very much over time. And you have to be able to acknowledge where your gaps are and be willing to go out and fill those gaps. That's just a huge skill. It's something that I spend a lot of time thinking about myself. This is where reflection comes in to a lot of it. It's a very introspective activity. It's a very personal activity, right? Very personal activity, and it's not easy. Admitting to somebody else, somebody who you respect as a friend or a colleague or a coworker, that this is actually something that I'm not well equipped to do. Walking into a job interview, right, and saying, "Oh, I know how to do this, this, and this, but I'm sorry, I don't know how to do this one thing that you were looking for," right? That's a very scary prospect, but I want to make the argument that, you know, that's okay. That's all right. It's all right. I would much rather have people on my team who are willing to go out and learn the stuff that they need than spend a whole lot of extra time trying to nail down people who've already got it. Right? That's a trait that's very valuable to me personally. What other traits? I like detail-oriented as well, so thinking about the small stuff, that's something that we're going to be doing a lot in this class. We're really going to be emphasizing quality over quantity in this class. I would much, much, much rather you submit a program that is short but immaculate versus some massive program that does 100 different things but looks terrible, right? Or doesn't do those 100 things very well. Give me a program that does 3 things and does them awesome versus one program that does 100 things but does them all kind of so-so, right? That's not the class. That's not what I want in this class. What else? Anything else that you thought of? So I want to kind of wrap up today then. I know we've got about 15, 20 minutes left. I kind of want to wrap up today then, looking forward a little bit and just thinking about, as we go through this semester, right, some of the kinds of things that you might expect to see or do in this class. We are going to talk about code a lot. We're going to read a lot of code. We're going to write probably not as much code as we read in this class. We're going to be reading more code than we write in this class. That's the goal. We can learn a lot from doing that. I want to make a promise to you right now that if if I ask you a question or we're having a conversation in office hours or in class or wherever, and you don't know the answer to my question, it's okay to say I don't know. It's okay. It's all right. And I want you all to have that same expectation for me. You might ask me a question. I might say, I don't know. That's a gap that I don't have. But what I really want to emphasize in this class is, all right, once we acknowledge that, let's figure it out. Let's take the time. Let's figure it out. Does that mean Googling it? Does that mean going on Stack Overflow? Does that mean spending a couple hours on the computer, writing some test cases to figure out how it's supposed to work, right? What does it take? Let's figure out what those next steps are, because that's programming, right? That's programming. Another thing that you could add to this list, right? Problem solving. And this takes many different forms. This takes many, many, many different forms. It's not just, I want to make a program that does X. How do I do X? It's also, oh, I was trying to make this program do X, but instead it's doing Y. How do I make it stop doing Y instead of doing X, right? or I think it should do X, but it's not doing anything. It's making my computer crash. How do I fix that? Problem solving takes a lot of different forms. I would much rather have somebody on my team who's willing to tackle those challenges, think about what's necessary to get over those hurdles, than somebody who's just gonna say, oh, well, it doesn't work, time to go to lunch, right? Actually, sometimes a good meal is what you need to figure out a problem, but that's a different story, right? I really don't want this class to be about, how much stuff can I get correct versus how much stuff I got incorrect. That's not the kind of atmosphere I want to foster in this class. I really want it to be about, I know this stuff pretty well, I don't know this stuff very well at all. Let me spend some time, building those skills, and then I'll tell you what I learned in the process of doing that. That's the kind of course that I'm hoping to foster. I hope that you all will buy into that with me and be willing to have those conversations with me, those discussions with me over the course of the next 15 weeks. Does anybody have any questions? That was my spiel. I know it was a little soapboxy, a little preachy. They won't all be like that, I promise. We are going to do some fun stuff in this class. We're going to start with a few weeks on, not a few weeks, a week or two on command line stuff, which is what we're going to be starting on Wednesday. So again, as a reminder, if you have a Windows machine, sometime between now and Wednesday, please install this Linux subsystem for Windows on your machine so that you'll be prepared to do the in-class exercises with us and the upcoming homework assignments. Otherwise, happy syllabus day. Enjoy the rest of your classes. I will see you all on Wednesday.